Today, the NASCAR Cup Series made its highly anticipated debut at Circuit of the Americas, and boy, it was a wet and wild roller coaster. I just got back from the track literally moments ago. I just drove 3 hours across the state of Texas, and I've got a lot to say about what took place today. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Boy, oh boy, I want to start this episode first by thanking all of you who came up to me and said hi, took photos, talked racing and stuff over the course of this past weekend. I literally, I'm not even kidding, I just got home. My shirt is still kind of wet, so I'm still processing everything that happened this weekend and even in today's race. So this is gonna be an interesting episode, but I do just want to extend my sincere gratitude to all of you who came up and said hi, even those of you who maybe weren't able to spot me at the track, all of you who supported the channel, supported the show, followed me on different forms of social media, contributed to the conversation. It really means the world to me, and just seeing so many of you guys face to face this last weekend for the first time all year, and really for the first time it felt like in over a year since pre-pandemic racing, you know, just really warmed my heart. I can't say it any other way. I really do appreciate the support, and today and yesterday were a ton of fun at the racetrack. I'll have a vlog from Circuit of the Americas coming out soon later this week, so keep an eye out for that. You'll see my firsthand experience, my very moist firsthand experience at COTA here in just a couple of days. But as far as tonight goes, because I'm filming this very late at night, you're probably watching this on a Monday, I'm going to share with y'all my thoughts on today's Echo Park Texas Grand Prix, the inaugural NASCAR Cup Series race at Circuit of the Americas. This episode is sponsored by Swan. Let's get right to it. I want to preface this episode by saying, since I just got home, I've had no chance, really no chance to see any of the FS1 broadcasts from today. I have no idea what Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer, Mike Joy were talking about in the booth. I have no idea what you guys watching at home saw on TV versus what you didn't see. I have no idea how the broadcast was. Were there too many commercials? Any of that. I have no idea. Feel free to share your thoughts on the broadcast with me down in the comments. I'll catch up on it later this week. But for now, I really want to focus on this race, what this race means for NASCAR, what this race means for NASCAR's future, potential future at Circuit of the Americas, and we'll talk about the winner and stuff as well. But I really want to focus on some of the bigger questions that were raised over the course of this event, because I see many fans on Twitter, I saw many fans on Twitter, you know, calling this, many parts of this day, an embarrassment for NASCAR. NASCAR made fools of themselves. Not just NASCAR, you know, the sanctioning body, but like, you know, just the overall sport, from the drivers to the sanctioning body to race control to the teams to everybody. Like, the idea of running NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas was always a foolish one, and today we saw exactly why. I've seen some of those sentiments shared around social media, and we'll talk about that here more in just a moment, because I do think there are a couple obvious places where NASCAR maybe either didn't step in at the right time or just made the wrong call. But to call today's race an embarrassment for NASCAR, in my opinion, could not be further from the truth. And I'll get to that more in just a few moments. But I want to begin this episode by talking about the top finishers, because Chase Elliott becomes the fourth Hendrick driver to win this year. All four Hendrick drivers have found victory lane. How about that? The defending champion gets it done at a road course. No surprise, he was my pick coming into the weekend. I mean, who could blame me? This race was rain shortened by, I believe, 14 laps. I just got home. I honestly haven't looked at it. It was wet at the track. Couldn't be out on my phone that much. Chase Elliott ran a very cool, consistent race, did not dominate by any means, and perhaps got bailed out a bit by the decision by NASCAR to throw the red flag and to ultimately call the race due to heavy, consistent rains. A call that both I, and it sounds like most of the field, agreed with. I saw after the race both Kyle Larson, I think Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, and I think one or two other top finishers all agreed that it was probably the right call by NASCAR to end the race on lap 54. So I don't want to hear any of you Kyle Larson or Kyle Busch or, you know, anti-Chase Elliott fans saying that NASCAR handed this win to Chase Elliott. Being there in person, by the end of this thing, it was raining harder than it had rained all weekend long. I was perfectly happy with NASCAR's decision to call the race. I felt like I'd gotten my money's worth, and just like probably everyone else in the grandstands, I kind of just wanted to get out of there. It was wet, it was miserable up in the grandstand, so I think NASCAR made the right call calling this race. Anyway, he got bailed out because it sounds like Chase Elliott was going to be out of fuel. They were a lap or two short. It sounds like his crew chief actually told him to run hard a few laps before the red flag, just to put as much distance between himself and Larson as possible before, you know, they inevitably had to pit, or if they got lucky and caught a caution or a red flag, I I'm sure they were looking at the radar and saw some heavier rains coming, so perhaps a smart strategy call there by Alan Gustafson and that team. But Chase Elliott does in fact get the win today. Congratulations to the 9 team. I saw a really cool photo after the race posted, I believe it was after the race, posted by Jeff Gluck. You see Jeff Gordon in his Fox getup. There with, it looks like Marcus Smith from SMI, who of course Speedway Motorsports leased COTA. Speedway Motorsports does not own Circuit of the Americas, but they leased Circuit of the Americas. They were the promoters for this race. You see Bill Elliott and Chase Elliott there as well. Pretty awesome photo. But Chase Elliott gets the win. His teammate Kyle Larson comes up a close second. Kyle Larson, not thought of as a great road racer. He only had 3 career top 10s at road courses coming into today, but new team, Hendrick Motorsports, and new Kyle Larson. He continues his consistent streak this season. Fast car, perhaps was in the catbird seat to win this thing if it went all the way, but rain did not play into Kyle Larson's favor. He gets yet another second place finish. I believe this is his 4th of the season. They probably mentioned on the FS1 bracket. That's crazy. Joey Logano was consistent all day. Look at these other 2 in the top 5. Ross Chastain. I was watching Ross Chastain like a hawk all day long because he was fun, hanging it out high, wide, and handsome on the exit of every corner. Track limits be damned. Ross Chastain was putting on a show out there. He was fast, gets a very well-deserved top 5 finish. His best run since joining Chip Ganassi. His best Cup Series run ever to date, in my opinion. Great run for Chastain. AJ Allmendinger making one of those few starts this year for Colleague Racing in the Cup Series. Gets a top 5. Great road course racer. No surprise there. The rookie Chase Briscoe, another great road course racer, finished 6th. Michael McDowell was in contention, especially early on in this thing. He comes home at 7th. Bowman Reddick battled back from, I think it was late in the race. He spun out at one point. I can't remember how late it was, but he battles back for a top 10. Kyle Busch gets a top 10 as well. He ran up front most of the day. Oh, I didn't even notice this until now, but William Byron, 11th. The top 10 streak has been snapped by 1 position. Oh, that's painful. That's not cool, man. There are a couple big wrecks in this race, which we will elaborate more on here in a few moments. That got everyone talking. Christopher Bell was caught up in one of the wrecks. Bubba Wallace, Kevin Harvick were tore up. They finished outside the top 30. Martin Truex and Cole Custer involved in that rough, scary crash in this thing. Big hits, cars practically on top of each other, cars on fire. Very scary incident. Luckily, both drivers walked away from it. They both also DNF'd and finished outside the top 30. So some gnarly incidents, knocked out some heavy hitters. But that is a look at your top finishers. Congratulations again to Chase Elliott, Hendrick Motorsports. Once again, top 2 on the pylon. They're here to make noise this season, and they are not slowing down anytime soon. Congrats to Chase. Now, I want to go back to what I was getting at a moment ago. We'll put this race on the Groovy Gauge here at the end. Don't worry, I have not forgotten about that. But again, I want to address namely the procedures of today's race. I've been a long proponent of NASCAR coming to Circuit of the Americas. You know, I lived in Austin for a few years there when I went to school there. I've been to Circuit of the Americas a few times. I'd seen how great the facility is firsthand. I wasn't really sure about Austin, Texas as a market, whether or not that would be attractive to NASCAR, but let me tell you, being there in person today, I saw easily 60,000 plus fans, if you ask me. I saw, more interestingly though, I would say a younger fan base than I've probably ever seen at a NASCAR track. And you know, that is huge. I know Austin, I guess, is typically thought of as a younger city. It's a college town, college city. You know, it's near San Antonio. It's a couple hours from Houston, a couple hours from Dallas. You know, it's a very centrally located city, but I was impressed by the turnout today. I was impressed by the support. And again, I was surprised by how many like younger fans like under the age of 40 that I saw walking around. More than usual. I thought, I'd be curious, those of you who are there, who've been to other races, I thought there were a lot more young fans there. That's huge if NASCAR is going to start to engage with the 18 to 30-year-olds and even younger demographics. This seemed like a step in the right direction. So I was pleasantly surprised. But long story short, I've always loved the idea of NASCAR coming to the Circuit of the Americas, and the moment it was added to this year's schedule, I already knew I was there. But then the rain came and it kept coming and it just never went away. The rain basically from the start of the green flag. It was dry today up until the pace laps, the opening pace lap. So say what you will. I spent most of the race around turn 12 and I can tell you that pretty much from the drop of the green flag, there was a very light but consistent rain. Just like a drizzle, but it never went away. It never really got heavy until the very end when they finally decided to call it. It was just a light, consistent drizzle. The track slowly got wetter and wetter over time. It threw curveballs at these drivers. Not only is this a brand new track to most of these guys who they had very limited track time at before today's race, but now you're throwing rough conditions. I mean, NASCAR Cup Series cars are already kind of known amongst major motorsports as being difficult to drive. They're heavier. They're not as aerodynamic as like a Formula One car. You know, they're difficult. You got to wheel a NASCAR Cup car around a road course. Everyone knows that. Throw in these harsh conditions at times. I thought the drivers today put up a heck of a fight. And so that's what I want to get to. Was today's race an embarrassment for NASCAR? I do not think so. Really not at all. I think there was one moment where NASCAR perhaps did not make the right decision, but then quickly did their best to remedy it. But aside from that one incident, I feel like most people should come away from this race being extremely impressed with what NASCAR was able to do here. Not only was this a brand new track in a brand new market to the sport, where they managed to bring in over 60,000 fans with weather threatening, but then the weather, of course, actually showed up and altered the race. So you had a new track, a new market to appeal to. You had difficult weather conditions. You know, if this was an oval, they wouldn't have raced today. We'd be packing up, but they'd be racing tomorrow morning. But since it was a road course, because NASCAR and Goodyear had worked on rain tire technology over the years and we had those at our disposal, NASCAR was able to run the race as scheduled today and was able to get almost to the end of its scheduled distance, despite that consistent, steady, tedious rain following from green to red checkered. Despite all of these challenges, what we saw today, at least what I saw from the stands, was some phenomenal racing. Great battles, plenty of parity, especially up front. Different strategies at different points. I mean, we saw Ross Chastain leading laps, probably for the first time since he got to Ganassi. Austin Cindric led laps early on in just his 5th career Cup Series start. Corey LaJoie finished 5th in a stage. Good grief. Great parity, great battles up front, and the finish was shaping up to be dramatic. You had some heavy hitters like Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch was in the mix as well. Fuel mileage was a concern. Despite this being a brand new track to NASCAR, despite these race cars not really being suited for a track like Circuit of the Americas, despite the fact that weather did not cooperate and we had standing water pretty much all across this 3.5-mile course from green to checkered, despite all of these challenges and many more, when they did race, I thought the racing was great. Guys were clearly on edge. The best drivers clearly bubbled to the top of the running order more often than not. It was a fantastic show. I loved what I saw. There was the one glaring issue that got everybody talking, and rightfully, I think, criticizing NASCAR, at least race control, the sanctioning by race control, and that was the incident when Martin Truex Jr. piled into the back of, honestly, somebody. Where I was sitting, I did not even see a good replay of it. I don't think anyone knew who he hit because Truex probably didn't even know who he hit because visibility was that bad. When Cole Custer piled into the back of Truex and his car caught on fire, they both hit the inside guardrail. Both drivers thankfully walked away with no apparent serious injury, but that was a very scary incident, a very heavy hit for both drivers, and it could have gone much worse. But thankfully, again, NASCAR's driver safety and car safety development on full display right there. Another reason I think they shouldn't be embarrassed. Wow, look at the safety of those cars. But that was certainly the dark moment of the race, because just a couple laps further, the restart prior, Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace piled into each other, Christopher Bell piled in, because visibility down the back straightaway, the fastest portion of the track, was bad. The rain had picked up slightly, puddles were more apparent, and the spray being kicked out the back of these race cars just blinded the 2nd through 40th place drivers every time they went through that stretch. So after the Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell, that wreck, NASCAR should have red flagged the race and run the Air Titans down the backstretch. Instead, they thought they could squeeze another restart out, and that's when the Truex and Custer incident happened. And then NASCAR made the right call to red flag the race and dry that portion of the track. Didn't take very long at all. They then switched to single file restarts, which wasn't really necessary, but okay. I mean, there's precedent for it. They did it at Bristol this year. But to me, that was the one blemish of the race. And NASCAR pretty quickly at least did the best they could to remedy it. They should have red flagged the race after the first wreck with Harvick and Bell. I mean, it's a difficult judgment call by NASCAR because certain portions of the tracks maybe had some standing water, but they were slow enough that the visibility wasn't as big of a concern. That one fast portion of the track into that heavy braking zone, it was just difficult for NASCAR to predict. I can't fault them too heavily for trying it the first time, but after it didn't work, after we clearly saw visibility come into play and affect Harvick and Bubba and all those drivers, NASCAR should have red flagged it to dry the track. I totally agree with everyone there. Kevin Harvick says it was the most unsafe conditions he'd ever felt in a race car. I think he's probably right. Plenty of drivers criticized NASCAR's decision to restart there. I completely get it. NASCAR, to their credit at least though, did red flag the race very quickly after the Truex Custer incident. Of course, it was one restart too late in my opinion and probably in most everyone's opinion, but if that is the incident that people are basing their argument that this was an embarrassment for NASCAR off of, I don't know, I feel like they're missing the bigger picture. Yes, that was a bad moment. NASCAR is still fairly new to not only road courses, obviously this track is new, but road courses in general are still kind of a new thing to NASCAR. They're not a novelty anymore. There used to be just 2 on the schedule for years and years and years. Now there's 7. NASCAR is starting to learn how to take road courses more seriously, but NASCAR is also new to racing in the rain. like racing in the actual rain, not just, damp, moist conditions, like actual puddles and stuff on the track. Like, they ran so many laps today through those heavy puddles. That's what I'm saying. It was impressive by the drivers especially. But my point is, NASCAR is new to a lot of these things. There are going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some judgment calls that they miss. And believe me, on this show, I have been heavily critical of some of NASCAR's judgment calls this season. So I can be critical of NASCAR when I believe they deserve it. Today, I think the criticism is warranted, but I don't think it overshadows the overall event. That's my take there. NASCAR made a mistake. They clearly learned from it pretty quickly and acknowledged it even after the race. NASCAR VP of Competition, Scott Miller, acknowledged that they should have thrown the yellow before the Truex Custer wreck restart. They should have thrown the red flag, rather, is what he said. So NASCAR even acknowledged it early on. So that's all you can really hope for. I mean, yeah, you could say they dodged a bullet. Like, whew, Martin Truex Jr., Cole Custer. I mean, sure, sorry may not cut it to them because they were in serious danger for a moment there. That was a scary, scary crash. But at the end of the day, everyone walked away from what was a very difficult situation. It was difficult for NASCAR to judge, difficult for the drivers to judge, difficult for fans at home like you and me to judge, quite honestly. But to me, I don't think that one misstep, especially considering all of the conditions, should overshadow what I believe was otherwise a fantastic inaugural NASCAR at COTA event. I wish it hadn't been raining, although I do think the rain helped spice the racing up a little bit, so there's good and bad with it. But the fan turnout I saw today, and yesterday even for that matter, greatly exceeded my expectations. The racing action today was fantastic. I think it's good for NASCAR that so many fan favorites like Larson, Busch, Chase Elliott were up at the front battling late. From my perspective, at least, I think today was a successful event. And again, that's despite the many, many, many challenges that they were faced with. I just had a big grin on my face. I mean, when I wasn't, grimacing from the rain hitting me, I had a big grin on my face because it was great to see NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas, and it was great to see fun, competitive racing at Circuit of the Americas. I hope NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports and whoever is in charge over there are able to bring this track back next season. I hope COTA becomes a staple on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. To me, it is a worthy addition to the NASCAR regular season. I hope to see it return. Now let's put this race on the Groovy Gauge. I wish this thing had played out to the end, of course. I wish we could have seen if Chase Elliott maybe had saved enough fuel. Maybe he had caught a caution and could held them all off on a restart. Maybe. I would have loved to see if Kyle Larson could just run him down naturally. He probably wasn't going to, but I would have loved to see him try at least. I would have liked to see this thing play out to the end, but that being said, this was still a very solid race, a very good race, I would say. I'm going to give it an 80% on the Groovy Gauge. I had fun. Again, I have not watched any of the TV coverage. I have no idea how FS1 handled things. I know there was the first big wreck. It looks like they didn't have a great replay of through all the, the mist and stuff. They just didn't see the first wreck with Harvick and Bubba. It looked weird on the 3D rendering they were showing. So I hope they didn't miss too many big action moments like that, but at least from my seat, again, turn 12, great view of many different points of the track. There was so much action to go around. It was a lot of fun to watch. So 80% for me for the Echo Park Texas Grand Prix. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. That's going to do it for this episode, my guy. I got to take a shower and then finally dry off. I feel like I haven't been dry in days. Goodness gracious. But thank you all so much for watching. That's going to do it. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR almost daily here at Out of the Groove. Again, I'll have my at-track vlog coming out shortly. Huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I couldn't keep this channel going the way I do without your tremendous support. I greatly appreciate it. I'm really curious to hear what you guys thought about this race. Again, I was out in the rain, so it was difficult for me to check my phone and be on Twitter the way I'd usually be and see people's immediate feedback. So I really don't know what fans thought of this race, quite honestly. So I'm kind of going out on a limb here, just telling you guys what I felt seeing this thing in person from those damp bleachers. But thank you all for watching this episode. Look forward to hearing your responses, and I'll see you in the next one.